morning, everybody. What is going on? We are jumping back onto our 2.5RS. Now, over the past couple of days, I have been working on that blue STI hatch that you guys saw a couple months ago. There's cylinder 4. Cylinder 3, the piston's literally cocked in there, like, and it's broken on the crown, and it's broken on the ring. The heads, yeah, you see? I told you, aren't you glad you bought new heads when you did? Yeah. Otherwise,
so in the email you said they are not. You are 98% sure that they're damaged. So I was like, all right.
I would say that's damaged. This chamber, salvageable. No, it's not. No, it's definitely touched right there. Okay. Salvageable. completely screwed.
Dude, you know, cylinder 4 cooling mod could have probably prevented this.
Shut up. Oh my god, it's the same! This head.
Dude.
Bro.
This one, I don't know. This one might be worse. This one has more like
I can literally scoop out your f***ing engine. Bro, this head, I probably wouldn't. Nah, no, it's fine. Came in, I put a new engine on it, went to get it started, and come to find out the reason that car actually blew up on the dyno was because the ECU actually bricked on that thing, which is terrible news to have to call the owner and be like, hey man, I know you just spent all this money putting a new engine in. Regardless, it needed a new engine, but now you need to buy a new ECU and then get it reburned and all this other stuff. So kind of sucked. I couldn't get any tuning software to connect to it. I couldn't get any scan tools to connect to it. It's just a worst case scenario. I've never seen a car blow up from a bricked ECU at Redline. So that thing is getting towed out of here in I think about 20 minutes because there's nothing I can do. It's a dealership only thing that has to fix that. I can't reburn ECUs. Today we're focusing on this. Now you might see, yes, we got our intake manifold in, which is awesome. We are running the Cosworth on this. I feel like it's very period correct for the era of this generation. And we also got our trunk in. This trunk will be color matched to the body, but obviously with adding a wing to this and the stock trunk springs, I wanted to try to reduce some of the weight to compensate, because stacking a wing on a steel trunk, those trunk springs aren't gonna wanna open. So with the carbon trunk and the fiberglass carbon wing, I feel like it'll kind of get the weight to where it needs to be, where the trunk's not gonna fly open. But the main focus for today is gonna be the fuel system in this car. I wanna try to get the fuel system primarily knocked out. There's probably gonna be some other little stuff that we do. So right now we've got some radium fuel rails. Our injectors show up tomorrow. I just placed an order at Ace Race. Ace Race is a local fab shop where you can buy AN line, AN fittings, pie cuts, tubing, all this kind of stuff. Because I went through my bin to figure out what AN sizes I have for Dash 8, and I don't have enough to be able to build this fuel system. Speak of the devil, tow truck's here. We're gonna get that thing loaded up real quick. Subaru's all loaded up. That thing's getting out of here. And I just got notice that our order is ready for pickup. So let's go swing down to Ace Race and pick up all of our AN fittings, line, and all the other goodies that I just bought, because we need them all. Oh, goodies! So we got our hose and then a big bag of fitting. Now I gotta make the hour-long drive back up to the shop, which shouldn't be too bad. I mean, at least we get the Tacoma and I got the puppos with me. So here we go. We got a lot more stuff on the table now. So I had to grab 5 of these 8 AN caps, and these are gonna be for all the breather fittings on the engine, with the exception of one. The other one is going to get this 12 AN fitting on it, and that's gonna go to our dry sump tank. Some stuff I got for the dry sump system in the cylinder heads just because I was already there. All of these, we're gonna toss all this stuff on real quick because all of this stuff already has a dedicated home and shouldn't have to come off. I had to buy one more 12 ORB weld on fitting for our dry sump tank because that has to get welded on. The main things I got for the actual fuel system here are a whole bunch of 8AN90s because I just didn't have any. As you guys see, we have enough 45s, we've got 180s, we've got straights, we've got other things that we already need. So before jumping to the fuel, I did order one more radium fuel damper also, just for the secondary fuel or for the other fuel rail. So before we jump to the fuel system stuff, let's toss these caps on and these couple fittings here just to kind of get them off the table and get them in their home. Because we're using the dry sump, we actually don't use these breather ports here. So they just get capped off like this and nothing goes to them. So I mean, it makes for a cleaner engine bay, definitely less hoses that have to go everywhere. So there's two ways we can set up a Subaru's fuel system. There's series and there's parallel. Now with series, this is not what we're gonna be doing, but it does work for some lower horsepower applications. Series is when the fuel line comes out of the feed, it goes to one fuel rail, feeds that rail, comes out, another fuel line comes from that rail to the other rail, comes out of the secondary rail, goes to the regulator, goes to the return. That works, and it's okay. It's okay. You can potentially, when you start pushing the car a lot harder, experience an issue where you may have a slight pressure drop at the last injector. So what I typically tend to do is run everything in parallel. So parallel, the fuel line will come off of the feed. It will then go to a Y fitting in the middle of the block. That Y is going to branch out, and then there's going to be two feed lines, one going to each rail, and then each rail is going to have its own return up to the regulator, and then it'll be regulator to ethanol sensor to tank. So either way will work. For this car, I'd rather have more consistent pressure amongst all injectors, so we're gonna be setting this up in parallel. Now, I do not have my feed line ran from the pumps up to the engine bay yet because I'm not quite sure how I wanna do that, so we're mainly gonna be focusing on the engine bay for the fuel lines and everything. We've got feed lines, we've got our rails, our regulator. We need to find a home for the ethanol sensor still, so we're gonna be doing that today. So let's get into it, start making some fuel lines. Our Y fitting is probably going to come off, maybe in this area or maybe here. I think I'm just gonna have it share a spot with that. Now, the reason I wanted to wait to do all these fuel lines, because then we can have our feed go down that way. The reason why I wanted to wait to do the fuel lines till I got the manifold in, so that way I can make sure all the fuel lines clear as we do this, which if I have both of those coming off at a 45 degree going to our rails to 90s for the feeds, we should be good there. Oh yeah, we got space for days. We got miles. The fresh cut on this AM line that I just did, we're gonna go ahead and put on the bottom fitting. Some of these are like counter twist on. Some of them are like just push on. These ones are, they look like just push on. Sometimes you can use a table to kind of push it down. The thing with AM lines is the bigger the line, the harder it's gonna be to get it seated. On the inside of the AN line, you're gonna see a little lip in there, and you wanna make sure that the hose is pushed all the way into the lip. That way it actually seats properly. If not, you could have leaks on your lines, which you don't want. You're gonna need a lot. That was probably way too much, to be honest. When you're building these lines, make sure that you do screw these down all the way, because that can very slightly adjust your line length on things. There's fuel line number one. So now I need to grab a piece of tape. We got one fuel line down, now we just gotta repeat the process for everything else. So 90 to -8 AN wraps under the manifold, comes back. I used an Adele clamp to secure it down, which that's fine. The factory has another OEM style retainer that goes there, so it's not like it's taking away from the bolt. Wraps up to our Y fitting. So with that one done, now we're just gonna rinse and repeat for the other one, and then we're gonna do the same thing with the return lines, and those are gonna run from here over to our regulator. Engine bay fuel lines are all done, so we'll start on the feed side. The feed's gonna have to go from a fuel filter, which I haven't mounted yet, which we will probably jump to here in a second, try to figure out where we want to put that thing. So feed will come up into this 90, go to the Y, it'll feed the front of this rail, and then the other part of the Y will feed the front of this rail. Once the fuel has gone through the rails, it'll come out the return on this side, and it'll come out the return on this side. All the fuel will go through the fuel pressure regulator, out of the fitting on the bottom, go down to our ethanol sensor, and then return back to the tank. So the engine bay for all the fuel lines are all done at this point. So we are actually gonna pivot away from the fuel system for a minute. I did get our fuel pulse dampers added onto the bottom of our fuel rails, but I kind of want to jump over to the radiator fans next. I've been trying to figure out what I wanted to do for radiator fans in this car, and I was looking at the OEM ones, and I bought a used set of OEM ones because I'm not paying, I think it's like $700 to piece together a new OEM set. I'm not gonna pay that. If I want to replace the fan shrouds, I can replace the fan shrouds. That's not a big deal, but I was curious on how the wiring worked. I think I've got it figured out. So I've got my power inverter hooked up to this, and these fans have 3 settings per the FSM. I'm just gonna have them run it high all the time, and I'll stagger the fans, so that way one kicks on at one temp and the other one kicks on at the other temp, because I have 2 independent relays allocated for them in the R3. These are 2007 STI radiator fans. 4 wire going to the actual fan motor itself. Down here on the opposite end, there's only 3 wires. So you've got black, which is obviously gonna be your ground. Then we've got green, and then this one looks to be blue, but it's really dirty. So with both of these combined, this should put the fan running on high. So if we click that guy on, send 12 volts to that, it's trying to suck it through, so. And I can feel air coming out the backside. So I think we are just gonna end up running with these. With those fans going in the car, we obviously have to pull the radiator out, but with pulling the radiator out, we can actually put it in permanently, put our radiator, upper and lower radiator hoses on permanently, and get this in. So, and we'll find out how much clearance we actually have with our radiator fans on here. The fans actually don't look too bad. I'll probably give them a quick cleaning. This one we're gonna do a little bit of grinding on. We're gonna cut down this stub here that used to come off of this. We'll cut this connector off. It's the same wire color, so I mean, it's pretty easy to identify which wires do what, but let's get these cleaned up, get this trimmed down a little bit, get these on the radiator. We can get that back in the car permanently, get our radiator hoses on, and that'll kind of take care of this portion that I was stressing a little bit. I didn't know what I was gonna do for fans, but OEM, man. OEM works so good in these things. So it should just kind of go in like that. With clearance for the coolant pressure sensor, and that fits nicely now. Oh yeah, what do you think of that, Mel? Do you actually think it's beautiful, or are you just saying that?
Yeah, I think it looks good.
Our dry sump pulley hits the fan. Radiator fans are in. It is a tight fit, but with the hoses on there and everything, I think we'll be fine. I did have to clearance it for the dry sump pulley down there, but it does all clear, so we technically have our radiator fans in now. We did get a little batch of parts in though. On the table here, we have our brand new cam position sensors, because we had none, our negative battery terminal, our missing gasket from when we assembled the long block, our front badge for the front bumper, which RCM makes an OEM one, or it is OEM, I'm not entirely sure, but it looks perfect. Our throttle body, so this is an IAG big bore throttle body. This is a 76 millimeter, so we need that in order to build our engine harness. And then to build the engine harness more, we actually need our fuel injectors. So these are a set of ID 1700s. So these will just drop right into our TGV housings with our fuel rails. This will bolt on to our Cosworth manifold with the help of that adapter plate that is hiding down here. So with the adapter plate, we can actually bolt that thing to our Cosworth, which will be nice. So we're just gonna go through all of this. Oh, look at that, you guys. That will sit lower and more inwards. That's just the longest bolt I had. I had to buy an adapter. I had to do some weird shit to make that thing work, but I wanted to mock up the turbo. So we have our IAG big bore throttle body. This does just use an OEM pinout, so that makes it easy for us. Our fuel injectors are all in, so we've got ID 1700s going all the way around the engine right now. The cam position sensors are in down there also, so we almost actually have, dude, this engine bay looks freaking nuts. So we almost actually have everything in here to start building our harness. Our exhaust manifold and up pipe did ship out today. I did order the flanges for this turbo. Like I said, this is going to sit down and back more, and probably at more of a 45-degree angle. It's not going to sit that high, but just as a purely visual thing, I just wanted to see with the turbo in there. Dude, this thing looks freaking nuts, dude. That looks so good. So I'm hyped for this. So this will be like a 45-degree coupler coming off. Intercooler piping is going to wrap down. It's going to go right down through there up to the front mount, which I have that Perrin one, but I may try to find one that fits a hair bit better. I just haven't figured out what I'm going to end up doing yet. But dude, this gets me freaking hyped. I also threw a little badge in temporarily. It's only held on there with double-sided tape, but I just wanted to see it on there. Now, I know what you're thinking. That does look huge. That's just typical of Borg Warner. Borg Warner turbos just naturally look massive. They are physically large turbos, but that turbo, and we'll get into the turbo stuff here in the next couple of videos. I actually sat down with Borg Warner for, it was like a 2-hour phone call talking about turbos, and we spec'd this exact turbo out for this build, for our power goals, and what we're gonna be doing with this car. I've already bought the alternator for the car. We have a DC Power billet one coming. So I think at this point, engine bay wise, I mean, we're almost there. For a fully put together EJ. I mean, all that's really left is a couple little fab things and wiring, and then technically speaking, we should be able to run that. which is actually really awesome because I feel like the engine portion of this build went way quicker than anything else. Damn, dude, it just looks so good with that turbo up in there. I just love looking at it. This thing's mine. That's wild. That's absolutely wild. I cut the ever living hell out of my finger getting that turbo in there mocked up just for a thumbnail. But dude, I'm so stoked that I just mocked it up for right now. Our turbo kit should show up next week. I believe we are using the RCM unequal length manifold. So this car will have the Subaru rumble that everybody knows and loves, but sick, dude. I'm hyped. That's all I've got for you guys on this one. In the next couple of videos, we will probably jump over to the interior wiring because I did get our steering wheel in. I don't want to touch it right now because my gloves are brand new. It's whatever. I got an OMP Super Leggero. I'm gonna pronounce that so wrong. Back there, quick release, and I also ordered buttons so that way on the steering wheel we can have things like rolling anti-lag, rotational idle if we want it. I mean, it's just kind of fun to have. It's literally anything on that steering wheel. We got 4 buttons so we can program them, do whatever we want. But in the next videos, we'll probably be jumping back into the interior stuff. But with that, that's all I got for you guys on this one. If you're hyped to see the freaking progress on this thing with a fat turbo in there and whatnot, temporarily speaking, but still, go ahead and hit that like button, turn it black, blue, green, yellow, purple, silver, cyan, whatever color it turns to you. And if you're not already subscribed to the channel and you want to see this thing ripping around soon, dude, it could be driving next month. That's nuts. That is nuts. But like I said, I'll put it in one of these corners. But with that, I will catch you guys in the next one. So peace out, homies.